Okay, we are back with part two of my track breakdown of Night Skies, and you guys tell me if I get too long-winded, if it's too boring and long, or if you want me to keep going, how in depth you want me to go. I think I'll be doing more of these. It's fun, and I finally, as I said, finally kind of got my head around getting a proper setup so it's not super cumbersome to record the capture the screen and record the audio and have the music playing as well and get that. And it's like a technical, and I am not very technical, as we've established. So there we go. Let's get to the guitar solo synth sound. I've had to bounce a few things because I tried doing part two of this video and then it just my computer just exploded. I didn't explode. It basically just couldn't run it, so I had to freeze some stuff and delete some stuff. Here is what I kind of use for. I use Diva as my synth for. This is just kind of. It could be any synth probably. Sometimes for the live setup, I use Serum for concerts or for our show computers. Just because it's not quite as heavy. Serum is, for whatever reason, I love Serum. It's great, but it's really CPU hungry. And for reasons I don't really understand sometimes. So maybe it's just something I don't get. But this is my the sound I use for my kind of solos. So there's a nice little like sharpness to it, and this is just a preset I found, and I may have tweaked it a bit or whatever. But I like how there's a bit of a velocity on the filter. So if I'm pressing down hard, it opens up, and then if I go softer, there's a bit more. There's a bit of an expression there, which I like. And then what I do, besides having a bit of, I'll have a little bit of vibrato connected to the what's it called? The not the pitch bend, the other thing. See, I don't even know the words for things. the other thingy. I'll play it for you. So it has a little bit of vibrato, and it's that's the other wheel, the modulation wheel. That's the mod wheel. That's what I was trying to find. Just a bit. It helps me add some expression when I'm playing. And what I do is I always had it set to, when I pitch it up, it's a semitone. So like this. And then pitch down, it's 12, so it's a whole octave. Let me just take the latency off. So what that does, it enables me to add a bit more expression in my solos and in my lead parts. Because you can kind of ramp up the notes like room, or you can, and I'll play it for you like this. It's just kind of more fun to play with, honestly. That's kind of it. But that's kind of what I use, I think, is my go-to lead sound before it goes into the thing that makes it sound like a guitar is Guitar Rig, a great plugin. Let me sure I've got this soloed. It's a great plugin. I think it's particularly good for really leady stuff or clean stuff. I think it's not quite as good for if you got a real guitar and you're chugging away and trying to get something really meaty and kind of fat. I think it's not quite as good at that. It feels a little thin and digital. But for the purposes what I use it for, which is that real clean kind of thinner sound of a real metally lead, which I generally gravitate towards for those type of synth wavy solos anyway. It's fantastic for that. And I love that you can just keep piling on plugins within the plugin, as we talked about earlier. I kind of love this whole setup. It's great. And so clearly you could see this is the preset I found, Big Monster. Let's reload that and see what it sounds like. So really tight and clean. And it has a little bit of, that's generally what I do. I've tried a lot of different things to get that wide sound, because without this, it's super mono, or it's not super mono, but it's definitely much more in the middle of kind of the spectrum. And what I do instead, I've tried chorus, I've tried spreaders, I've tried dimensioners and whatever they're called, dimension wideners, all that stuff. I think having a very, very short delay, stereo delay, where you essentially turn up the mix really loud, as you can see, it's basically in 100. So you're essentially just taking out the middle and you're bringing out the sides. So really short delay. Look how short that is. Super short. Feedback in 0. So you're not getting echoes. You're just getting one or as close to one, delay as possible. And the level is loud. Makes us in 100. So that gives you like this wide sound. And without it. It's a lot more wide and still really controlled. Chorus effects can sometimes be a bit funny, especially if you're throwing in a compressor after the chorus. Sometimes a chorus effect will, and I think this is mostly in the lower frequencies, but it'll affect the levels, which is kind of why I don't like phasers. I rarely use phasers. I know there's a bit of phaser in this Diva preset, but it's such a subtle sound and doesn't matter. But the phasers, they tend to mess with the levels, and it's always kind of messy, and I don't like the sound of them either. Choruses tend to mess around with levels, and so you're throwing it'll affect if you're throwing in a compressor after a chorus effect. Sometimes maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but it'll sound like it just dips because there's information in the low end that's affecting the compressor, and suddenly everything just sounds like it's dipping out a bit or sounds lower, not as in your face, and it just kind of annoys me. So this is a nice, clean way of getting a more of a spread and not have to play with the phase and basically what a chorus does. It's a little bit more. It's playing more with frequencies. This is just a straight delay, So there we go. And this was, I think I just added. Maybe a little bit more compression, and then and has an octave. It's not really an octaver. Like I soloed this, and you can hear it. It's not really doing much. It's adding some mid-tone. So it adds some body, and then I added some delay. What is this? So it's not even set to the tempo of the song. It's just whatever sounded good. And that's what I did. And then I rolled off some highs, and it might initially sound a little muffled, but bear with me because we've got some stuff going on here that kind of is going to bring out a little bit of, it's going to kind of make everything come together a bit more, but we'll get to that. Again, this is the same filter we talked about earlier. I'm doing this copying thing because I'm an obsessive person. Rolling off some highs. This is basically anything around, above this frequency. And as I said earlier, it could sound different if you're using a different EQ or a different type of filter. So just do what sounds good for that particular plugin. But with it and without it. So initially you might go, it sounds a little muffled or closed off, but really the information you're missing out on is really just kind of very hissy above kind of 15K. So it's not really information I want or need. And I'm going to brighten up the whole thing a little bit in my master channel. Anyway, so here we have it. That way, also, that guitar gets to have its own little place, and then when this pad opens up, as you can see here, you can really hear like that sizzle coming out. It's not trying to compete with the guitar because you rolled off those highs. So that has its own, it gets the sizzle, and the guitar has more of the low, not the low, but the kind of the high mids, and it's really punching through there. So that's kind of it. And really, let's just just because it's so CPU hungry, I'm gonna mute this and take these guys off right now because I really want to focus on the master channel. It's really not rocket science what I did, but it's just kind of something I've been doing slightly more later. It's definitely more on Monsters, on the album Monsters, is adding stuff to the track channel or the master channel. But I'm always hesitant to do it because I always tend to think down the line, and I'm like, oh, when we're going to be playing live, when I'm bouncing out stems, or even for remixes or whatever, if you leave those on and you're soloing your elements and bouncing them, they're all going to be super loud or louder because it's being thrown through compression and saturation and EQ and limiter or whatever you've got on there. And then once you pull in all your stems in a separate session, then it just the mix is all off. So I'm always a little hesitant, but at the end of the day, what wins out is what sounds best, and you just have to know that when you then are bouncing all your elements without that master chain on it, it's gonna sound slightly different once you pull all those elements. And for example, in an Ableton session for a live session for a live show. So that's it. And it really, all this is nerdy stuff that doesn't matter because you're in a room. It sounds different. You don't need it to be so compressed. But I'm kind of obsessive when it comes to that stuff. A company I haven't spoken a lot about is Goodhertz. I think they're a Swedish company, and they're fantastic. I love their stuff. I have a bunch of their plugins. This one is called Wow Control, and I used it heavily on the track City Dreams on Monsters, where I wanted a real, if you want kind of a vapor wavy sound where you can make it sound really old and kind of like unstable tape that has lots of flutter and wow, this is the one. It's fantastic by that, but it does other stuff. It has saturation, and in this case I didn't want a bunch of wavy tape effects on it. I wanted just to add some saturation, so you can hear it without it and with it. God, my computer's like, kill me with it. God, see, I told you guys, my computer's like, I can't do this. What else can we take off? This is real, guys, real time. We're just gonna get rid of some stuff that's not playing. We have to, when in need. What else can we do? I'm not even running that much. I don't even know. I don't know, man. Maybe we could, sometimes I have to go as far as deleting my undo history within Logic. That's how desperate I am. Let's try this. This is such Bush League. Everyone's like yelling at their computers now. So you can hear it's really adding a really nice like fatness. I think that's this thing. So it's adding a body and a fatness, and I wanted this track to really, I wanted to feel that bass when I'm, cruising around my car. If I'm putting on a track like this, you want it to really come through. But at the end of the day, let's copy how it was. But then at the end of the day, you do lose some high end. So I used, and let's just cross our fingers that my laptop can pull the weight. This one is it's called Abbey Roads Studio. It's a Abbey Roads mastering chain. And it's modeled after a famous module that they have at the Abbey Road Studios, from what I understand. And it supposedly sounds really good and all that stuff. And it's really great. I have to be honest, I don't always love Waves stuff. Some of their plugins I really love them. But then some of them it feels like they're just from another time. And it's like they haven't updated them, or they haven't, and as a result, they don't, they just don't perform as well. They don't look as nice, or sound as nice, or automation is wonky with them, and it's just kind of I don't know. But this is one of their newer ones, and it sounds great. So this is without it, and with it. Oh my god, this is the synth gods punishing me for bad mouthing waves. I think we can all. I'm gonna have to like freeze some stuff. Let's try and freeze this. For those of you that don't use Logic, that's something you can do. You can like freeze tracks, and let's just freeze a bunch of stuff. Yeah, sorry about this wait, guys. I will talk about nerdy stuff in between while we wait. Yeah, all that is. I used the same channel on Helvetica, and I think I used it on Dreamaway as well, on the master channel, or at least on the track channel, separated from the vocals. The way I'll have my setup is I'll have synth, any melodic elements going to one bus, and then more my drums and percussion going to one bus, and then usually effects and little, swooshes and booms and stuff like that, a third bus, and then I'll have vocals on a fourth bus. But then I'll send drums and keys to another bus that's the track bus, so that also if I need to mute something in a, let's say I need to cut everything in a track while the vocal is sitting there all alone, it's just easier to just mute that one bus with that has all elements in the track. And instead of muting all the elements individually or whatever, or if I want to cut everything that's melodic and keep like some kind of drum fill, just much easier to just mute the keys bus and have, and then it just comes in again when you unmute it. And it's just a shorthand, but it allows me also to treat, especially the drum bus, I treat it, as you saw earlier, like I treat that one individually or kind of as a group. But if you wanted to treat the keys bus, any synth, sometimes I'll just, if I'm in a rush or a hurry and I have to get moving, I might be like, the keys bus feels like there's a lot of mid-range stuff going on. I'll just kind of dip some frequencies in there. It's just quicker than having, and sometimes you just kind of have to get stuff done. You just don't have the time. Anyway, let's listen to where we're at. It's a miracle, guys. It's a miracle. All right, so nothing crazy without it. Without it again. And with it. So it's just kind of pulling everything together. There's a little bit of compression going on, some parallel compression, because we're hearing mostly the compressed signal, but also a little bit of the uncompressed signal, and some EQing going on. I don't know and understand this super well, but I love you can basically press this button on each thing, and it's each module. You can change it around, but you can see the back of whatever you want to tweak. So you can do this, and now I'm looking at that full compressor, and you can go through. So this is each element here. And this is kind of the backside. You can go in detail and really get granular with stuff, which is cool. So this is more tonal stuff like EQ, and it's adding some. From what I understand, it's not just EQing, or maybe it is, but it feels more like, I don't want to call it harmonic distortion, but it's definitely adding much more character than just turning up 10K a little bit. It's like a lot of color, and this is how. I think this is how, this is obviously the frequency, and this is how much, but this is like how much the curve is, how sharp you want it, if you want it subtle or not, and if you want it really aggressive. So I like it, and it just kind of pulls everything together and adds an overall clarity or punch or width. Like you have a spreader, I think it's in, oh, here we go, the spreader. So you could hear it if we tone the spreader down to 0. Or if we go real hardcore. And without it. That's just making it real mono. But you might be in a situation where you go, this whole thing feels a little too wide, because I've put chorus on everything, and now it's like, okay, let's just dial it back a bit. So overall, you can just kind of control that a bit. And so that's kind of it. I don't know if I left anything out. I don't think I did. But these last two, we talked about things being a little duller. So without them, there's just not, it sounds nice and it sounds clean, but with them, so without them, it feels like it just brings it all a little closer to the vest, and it's just a little bit more in your face. It's a little fatter, and it's still got a brightness, but it's not, it's super sizzly, or it's not brittle, I guess is the word. And then I also tend not to go overboard with the brightness on my mix. Or it's something I've focused on in the last few years, more on at least. Because that can be added in mastering. I'm sending, obviously, I send off this file. In this case, I leave these two on because this is kind of what I want my mastering engineer to work from. I don't want her to, I don't want the person to like copy how I don't want to be like, make it sound exactly, I'm just going to use this. This is kind of what I like. And then I know, that Emily that we use, I forget her name, Emily Lazar, that she's amazing. She works with everyone, and we're lucky to have her. But she is ultimately just going to bring a clarity in a much nicer way and a little bit of compression in the low end and all that stuff that a mastering engineer does. So I tend not to make it too bright or too. I like a little bit of control in the low end and all that stuff, but I tend to under compress it so that she has more dynamic range to work with. That's kind of it. We can listen through some vibes. It's moments like these that you really feel the tape hiss, or maybe it's just me, but I feel like that comes through in those verses where everything is kind of, especially now that Tyler's voice is obviously muted, or the vocoder is muted, but everything is filtered and you can kind of hear the hissy quality, and I kind of like that coming through. Let's see if we can hear if it gets muted. I might be wrong, but let's have a listen. Oh, here we go. Ironic. Oh my God. I give up. I give up, guys. This is the universe telling me to stop. I don't know if you heard that, but that was like you hear when it's not there, basically. You hear that? And with it. There's just a presence, and it's, like I said earlier in part one, it's that film grain. It's the thing that lets you know you're viewing something through a prism. This might sound like heady, but I love like being able. It's like we're in a time where everything's so digital, and I think I intentionally try and add little hissy sounds and dirty little things to grit it up. Also because my sound inherently is so clean. And I'm not complimenting myself. I'm saying I just gravitate towards very poppy elements and very clean sounds. And so it's sort of my way of kind of pulling it in a different direction a little bit. I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry my computer is kind of like trying to just survive to get through this. But hopefully I can do more of these. I think it's fun. If you guys like it, maybe you're just all bored and you've fallen asleep already. I don't know. But this was fun. And let's do it again sometime. And you can let me know maybe which track you'd like me to break down, and I will do it. Thanks, guys. You are rad. And also thank you for being so engaged in this scavenger hunt. This is crazy. And our team has put so much time and effort into coming up with these clues. This started as an idea by Tyler and our manager, and they kind of ran with it. And then Justin and Emily, our management team, have just really took that idea and ran with it, and with help from our label Counter Records, they've just kind of expanded it to more than we could ever imagine. But it's really because of you guys being so engaged that it's fun to do, and it's it's so rewarding. So we're lucky to have you. You rock, and we'll get through this shitstorm of a year together, and let's just keep making good music and being positive. Take care, guys. Bye.